Hi there, and welcome to the first painting tutorial on the channel. Today we're going to be painting Professor X for Marvel Crisis Protocol. The model has already had a Zenithal Prime applied using Vallejo black and grey surface primers. So, let's add some colour. First we're going to use Corax white for his shirt. Make sure this is nicely thinned down so that you don't obscure any of the fine details. You will probably need to do a couple of thin coats here. Don't worry too much about avoiding his tie, as we'll be painting over that next, and make sure that you get the cuffs sticking out of his sleeves as well. We are now going to paint over his tie with Kantor blue. Really take your time with a very small brush and try to avoid the Corax white that we just painted. If you do make a mistake, just carefully tidy up with Corax white until you are happy. Next, we are going to paint his entire suit with Caliban green. For the seat cushion on the chair, we can take some Vallejo matte black. Really take your time here and avoid getting any black on the green suit we just painted. This is a tricky area, so again, if you do make any mistakes, carefully tidy up with some Caliban green. Next we are going to tackle the eyes. Start by painting in the eye areas with Abaddon black. It's okay to be a little rough here, as we're going to come back and refine the shape later. Take some white and paint the whites of the eyes into the centre of the black you just painted. If you find that the whites of the eyes are too big, just take some more Abaddon black and use it to scale the white back to refine the shape of the eyes until you are happy. Paint all of the skin areas in Cadian Fleshtone. It's really important here to thin down the paint nicely. If the paint is too thick, it will start adding in unwanted texture, so it's best to do 2 thin coats. It's also at this stage where you can scale back the black around the eyes until only a small black outline remains. You should then have an eye shape you're happy with, and we will come back and paint the pupils later. For his blanket, we are aiming for a nice orangey red, and to do this we will be using a red contrast paint. However, if we apply that contrast paint over our grey primer, it's going to give us a cold tone, so in order to get a much warmer orangey red tone, we're going to first paint the blanket using Wraithbone. Once the Wraithbone is completely dry, paint one single even layer of Blood Angel's Red over the top. At this point we're going to paint our base, and we're going to start with a base coat of Mechanicus Standard Grey. Next we're going to shade all over our Mechanicus Standard Grey base coat with Nuln Oil. Once the shade is 100% dry brush all over the base with Dawnstone. Then, focusing on the outer areas of the base, dry brush with Administratum Grey. Finally, take some more Nuln Oil and apply a recess shade into all the cracks on the base to really define them and add more contrast. Next we can move on to painting the chair itself. Just like we did with the blanket, we want to undercoat with a warmer base colour, so start by painting the entire chair in Ushabti bone. You can see that I've already done a yellow test on the back, and this is the colour we're going for. Next, we want to really pick out all the raised areas with a white edge highlight. Time to apply our yellow. Use a 2-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Imperial Fist. We want this to be nicely thinned down so that it flows over the model really smoothly and is still thin enough to show our edge highlight underneath. This should now show through as a slightly brighter yellow edge highlight. We now want to add some shading to the chair, so take some Seraphim Sepia and paint this into all of the recess areas. Take some more white and add an extra edge highlight to the top edges where the light would really catch. Finally, add a second coat of the same contrast medium and Imperial Fist mix, exactly as you did before. We are now going to add shading and highlights to the rest of the model. Using a 50-50 mix of Caliban green and Warpstone glow, layer over all the raised areas of the suit, leaving Caliban green in the deep recesses. Take some pure Warpstone glow and layer over all the prominently raised areas of the suit. Finally, with a thinned down 50-50 mix of Warpstone glow and Moot green, highlight the areas of the suit that would catch the most light, such as the top of his arms, collar and upper back, and the front folds of his jacket. With Wild Rider Red, layer over all the folds in the blanket, leaving Blood Angels Red in the recesses. Then, with some Fire Dragon Bright, edge highlight all of those folds. To tie the colours together, add a wash of Fuegan orange. Use Soulblight Grey to shade the shirt. Using Leadbelcher, paint all of the metal panels and controls on the chair. Once the Leadbelcher has been applied, shade all of those metal areas with Nuln Oil. Be really careful not to get the shade over the yellow areas. Apply a 50-50 mix of Guilliman flesh and contrast medium to all of the skin areas. Apply a base coat of Ulthuan grey to the jet coming from the bottom of the chair. Then, shade all over this with Soulblight Grey. When this shade is dry, tidy up by layering Ulthuan grey onto the raised areas of the jet, leaving Soulblight Grey in the recesses. Add an extra highlight of pure white to all of the raised areas that will catch the light the most. Highlight all of the metal areas of the chair with Ironbreaker. With some Alaitoc blue and a very fine brush, we're going to carefully paint in some stripes on his tie. Once you have finished with the Alaitoc blue, Add some Hoeth blue into the centre of those blue stripes. This small highlight should help them stand out a little more. Add a layer of Corax white to all the exposed areas of the shirt and the collar, leaving Soulblight grey in the recesses. Paint in his tie clip with some Retributor armour. Another really small step this one, take some Mephiston Red and paint in the badge on his suit. The Guilliman flesh mix we applied to the skin areas earlier should provide a good roadmap to where our highlights need to go. Using this as a guide, tidy up with Cadian Fleshtone, leaving Guilliman flesh in the darker recesses of the face. Using some thinned down Kislev flesh, highlight the areas of the face that would naturally catch the most light, such as the top of his head, cheeks, eyebrows and chin. You want this to be almost like a glaze consistency, so as not to be too overpowering. We are finally going to come back to our eyes now. With some Abaddon black, just very carefully paint in a small vertical line right in the centre of the white of each eye. If you're not happy with your first attempt, carefully paint back over with white and try again. Just a couple of finishing touches now. Take some white and paint in the lights on the base. Then, take some Leadbelcher and pick out the rims of those lights. Finally, we're going to use some Iyanden yellow to paint in the centre to give us that yellow glow. The last thing to do is to paint the base of the model. Personally, I use Abaddon black, but you can use any colour you like. And here is our finished Professor X, ready to lead his X-Men. I hope you have found this video helpful. If so, please help me out by liking and subscribing so I can continue to make even more videos for you all. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.